Hi, I'm Melissa Vargas from New York City.
I'm Teresa. I'm from New Bern, North Carolina.
My name is Milka from Blantyre, Malawi, Southern Africa.
My name is Rebecca Darwin, and I'm from Montreal, Canada, where I'm a member with the Foundation for Black Communities.
I am a member of the Mama Bears Giving Circle.
And I'm a member of Honeycomb.
And I'm the director of the Giving Project Vermont.
And I am a part of Development's Giving Circle.
Collective giving is bold because it shifts the power of saying yes to the people.
We are changing the narrative of philanthropy.
Anybody can be a philanthropist.
Through collaboration, education, and commitment.
We give with an abundance of heart.
We build a stronger democracy.
We create belonging.
We trust each other.
To change lives.
To build bridges.
To repair the world.
To have a shared experience around giving.
Because it shows us that we can do so much more when we work together.
Bolder together.
We must demystify what it means to be a philanthropist.
Collective giving helps us to redistribute resources in all of our communities.
Helps to put the power of philanthropy in the hands of the people.
It helps to amplify voices from the margins.
To share dreams and solve problems.
Collective giving helps me give far more generously than I can by myself.
It helps to unite communities.
To exponentially increase our individual impact.
And make systemic change on a massive scale.
And grow into more inclusive futures.
To inspire others.
To reimagine the future of philanthropy.
We're collaborating together for a better world.
Because we can't do this work without each other.
We Give Summit. Let's celebrate.
Welcome everybody to We Give Summit. I am so excited and happy and joyful to see all of you here. Our annual celebration of collective giving is in its third year, and I'm filled with joy and gratitude to see all these, names popping up and joining the webinar. Thank you so much for joining this session. My name is Sara Lomelin. I am the CEO of Philanthropy Together. We're a global initiative to catalyze the collective giving movement. And since we gathered last May, we have been pushing ourselves to think bigger and bolder as we welcome hundreds of new voices into this movement, many who joined us at last year's event. So as we kick off We Give Summit 2023, I'm proud to share that so far, more than 1,000 individuals from across 23 different countries have registered to join us. And of course, more will trickle in during this couple of days. So we will enter the Zoom rooms to hear nearly 24 incredible sessions centered on this year's theme, Bolder Together. In these rooms, you'll be joined by members of giving circles, collaborative funds, fundraising circles, mutual aid groups, and others who are taking up the banner of collectivism to make change in their communities. On behalf of the Philanthropy Together team, and my heart is full of gratitude for our team, and the We Give Summit Steering Committee, we hope to see you at many sessions throughout the week and engage with us on Huba, through the lighting talks or on our community board to have bold conversations. Don't forget that we have all the lighting talks since yesterday. Last night I was watching a couple and oh my God, you learn so much from these short videos. I encourage you to use this time and space as an opportunity to reflect deeply and tap into our shared wisdom, make connections, make new friends, connect with everybody on LinkedIn after this. So too often, boldness is thought to mean bigger and newer at scale, always more. But our collective giving communities prove that boldness can be about going deeper and having more intentionality, really looking within at what you can do. You're going to hear a lot about this over the next 3 days. This year's theme is about being bold, And being bold requires us to think differently and, more importantly, to act differently. Being bold uncovers opportunities to create relationships. We Give Summit is our chance to be in community with one another and to challenge each another. Because being bolder together doesn't stop at the learning. It has to go into the action. I have been so proud to see all of the collective action that's happening worldwide, and we'll hear many of those stories this week. But my challenge to everyone joining us for the summit is to push ourselves to give with an abundance of heart, to give not only our dollars, but also to give more of our time, our energy, our imagination for what the world can become. Traditional philanthropy has long excluded the LGBTQ plus community, people of color, youth, women, people without wealth, and the list goes on. These groups are typically on the sidelines, but it will take all of our lived experiences and diverse perspectives to spark bold thinking and solutions for future leaders like all of you today. So, without further ado, I am very, very, very happy to introduce our keynote speaker. Before I introduce Gloria, I want to tell you a little bit. We know all of you were expecting Adrienne Mary Brown to join us here today, and she had a personal issue and she wouldn't be able to join us today. So we're sending a lot of love and our heart to her, and I am so excited, Gloria, and grateful for you to be here with us, to talk about boldness and to talk about collective giving and the incredible work that you are doing. So before I pass it to you, I want to read something about your work so everybody can tune in. Okay. So Gloria's, welcome, Gloria. First of all, thank you. I'm sorry. Folks, today it's all about being flexible and being bold. And I really want to thank you, Gloria, for joining us in this flexibility and this conversation. So Gloria's life and work are total manifestations of boldness, right? Of thinking up new worlds, inspiring millions with your words and your vision, and just as importantly, pushing for direct ways of building these bold new worlds. So we're so thrilled to be joined by you, Gloria Walton, President and CEO of the Solutions Project. Gloria is an organizer with 16 years of power building experience in South Central LA. And you put this goal into action for climate justice, right? And in just 1 year at the realm of the Solutions Project, Gloria has more than quadrupled the Solutions Project's impact and influence by leading a growing team, now funding and amplifying the innovations of more than 100 grassroots grantees. So in our theme this year of Bolder Together, what does bold mean to you? Can you share a story of who or what inspired this in you?
Absolutely. And so first, I just want to say big thanks to you, Sarah, and the We Give Summit for having me here, and to how you opened us. Just want to take a moment to just send so much care to my sister, Adrienne, and I hope that she is okay. We know each other through BOLD, which is this network of Black organizers throughout the country. So I'm just hoping that all is well. Yeah, and so to this question of boldness, being bold to me is about having courage. And it's funny to talk about this because at my organization, we've been having a conversation around our values, and we've been going back and forth between bold and courage and kind of feeling like they're the same side, or two different sides of the same coin, I should say. And I'm definitely someone who leans more towards the courageous part. And I say courage because for me, courage is about being rooted in integrity. And I think many people can be bold, and you can be bold for the sake of being bold, but when you're being bold in an effort to do the right thing and in an effort to stand up for another when they may not be able to kind of stand up for themselves, or just standing up or speaking out when no one else will. And I think aligning boldness and courage with the call of the moment can be pivotal. And so I personally have a strong set of values that you kind of alluded to. And because of that's what really gives me the courage to step into the lion's den, if you will, figuratively speaking, and spaces where I may be challenged, spaces where everyone may not agree with my perspective or have the same view as me, but I trust and have a deep amount of faith. One of my practices is really being a living altar. And so I trust and have this deep amount of faith that whomever I'm meant to move, I will. And wherever I'm meant to be resonant, I will. And I just believe that love is contagious. And I approach this work with an abundance of heart, love, and care. In the opening segment, you had all these leaders from all over the world kind of saying these words, which gave me chills, because you don't often hear words like heart, love, and care in philanthropic spaces. So that just shows me how different this space is. And so I'm grateful for that. And when I think about inspiration, I think about my grandmother and my mom, and being a little Black girl in Jackson, Mississippi, growing up in poverty. And so maybe not having the material conditions I wanted, but I was surrounded by so much love from the matriarchs in my family mostly, and some of the patriarchs like my uncles, because I didn't grow up with my father in my life. And I was surrounded by community. And the love from my family and my surrounding community is really what helped kind of give me a sense of self in a racialized world that told me that I wasn't enough. And it helped to give me a clarity of values that reflected what I believe in, which is the power of spirit, faith, joy, community, and love. And so one saying that all of us, I'm sure, have heard is that all you need is like a mustard seed of faith. And I feel that way about love. A little drop goes a long way. And love is actually what I felt an abundance of from my family, despite the material hardships and challenges. And this love for humanity and this faith is what gets me through it all. It's what gets me through today. It's what gives me courage to challenge injustices. And then there's the work, right? It's like I'm talking a lot about my family because that's my upbringing. And I think what really grounded me and grounds me to this day. And then the work inspires me. And when I think about dreaming big, I think about our grantee partners and everything they're doing on the ground.
I love it, Gloria. I love it because, it's like, and we promise everybody watching us that we didn't, plan all this, but you are really, saying the words that our movement says every day, right?
Yeah.
Like when you saw, the faces of everybody showing up, it is a joyful movement. It's people-powered philanthropy, right? Going back to the roots of the world, love for humanity, and all the work that we do is out of love. The majority of giving circles and collective giving groups around the world are led by volunteers, by everyday people like you and me that wake up and they want to make a change in their community. They want to change injustices, and they figure out that the best way of doing it is in community, right? And rallying your family, your friends. And the very first question that Giving Circle members ask to each other when they're getting together is, what are those values, right? Like, what are your personal values, the values that guide your giving, who instill your values in you, and how can we find a set of shared values for our groups, right? So definitely, Gloria, oh my God, I'm so happy you're here with us.
So refreshing for me to hear.
Yeah, okay. So of course, boldness and this abundance of heart centers around radical imagination, right? And a new future. So how do you dream big and have that imagination?
Yeah, so I'm inspired by our partners and communities that are on the ground, communities that I come from. I come from a most impacted community. As you mentioned, I've organized in a most impacted community. And it's really through that spirit of communities taking action, exercising power, that I'm able to dream big. Because I've seen what a sustainable and equitable world can look like. And it's simple things like having an affordable home that's powered by the sun. It's being able to play in a park or living close to green space, having access to healthy, delicious food and safe drinking water. And I see this through some of the work that our frontline partners are doing. And I think about Uprose in New York, where after years of organizing, they essentially are in a process of manifesting their vision. And this is their vision in their respective community that's around transforming a South Brooklyn industrial waterfront into a hub for offshore wind turbines. And so this is going to be doing a multitude of things. So it's going to be reducing air pollution. It's going to be powering millions of homes. It's going to be creating good green jobs. And then I think about New Alpha, and they're in North Carolina, or South Carolina, actually. And they're a historic community, and they've been dealing with floods, kind of water quality problems, just like back home in my hometown in Jackson. And one of the things that they've been innovating is this technology called hydro panels, where it's essentially a solar panel that takes air and transmutes it into safe, clean drinking water. So these are part of the things that inspire me to dream big. And I think part of being in our full power is really awakening our senses and giving ourselves permission to disentangle from the shackling realities of the day and dream and be uninhibited, and to dream about what it means to have the abundance that you need and the abundance that you desire. And all too often we're operating from scarcity. So we do have to give ourselves permission to be uninhibited and to think about what it means to be free, liberated, and get sensual with it, right? Like imagine what it feels like and what it tastes like and what it smells like to be nourished and fulfilled. And I believe that it's when we align our dreams with the possibility, that's when we create space for transformation.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. And I love what you say, right? We need to, yes, use our senses, and they will guide us, right? Of what needs to be done. Oh my God, love it, Gloria. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. One thing that we love about collective giving, right? And you have been talking about this, is that community is the one that helps us think bolder, right? We hear each other's dreams and visions, and it helps us think bigger and bolder, right? Being in collectives, in community, is crucial to creating these bold, inclusive worlds that you shared. So can you share how community and collaboration, you talk a lot about your grantees, right?
Yes.
How community collaboration and trust drives your work, and what does that look like in the climate space?
Okay. And just wanting to give a shout out to folks chiming in the chat, like appreciating that bold love from alumni and just kind of the feedback of what's resonating with you. And it looks like I'm maybe some folks are from Jackson too. So just loving that support out there. So as I mentioned, I grew up with a sense of community, and I don't take that for granted. And my grandmother and mom didn't have much materially when it came to money, but somehow they were two individuals who were always there if and when someone was in need. And so I witnessed at a very young age that when there's a will, there's a way. And I literally remember running across the street and bringing my neighbors eggs or cucumbers or canned tomatoes, or carpooling to the grocery store because a neighbor didn't have a car or someone was low on gas. And these were acts of community and mutual care, and the sense of not being alone. And it's these values and practices and behaviors that taught me how to show up for the people that I care about, the communities that I love. And I guess in some ways, these values eventually got me into organizing because I was on a completely different path. But, you know, it's interesting, if you allow your values to drive you, synchronicity happens and you end up being exactly where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. And I think witnessing kind of these demonstrated acts of love from the people that I loved and the people that I trusted, is really what energized my path. And you talked about it, but like during college is when I started organizing. And I organized in South Central, and this is Los Angeles, and I did it for 16 years. And I was building and exercising community power, and at the same time, building deep, trusting relationships. And these were with communities who were most impacted. And that was really important to me. And organizing is hard work, as many people on this call may know. It's no easy feat. And it's some of the most rewarding work when you can move people who remind you of your families to taking action and being connected to their own power. So my team knows at the Solutions Project, I often say, and at my former organization Scope, I said this as well, that trust is built on the work. And in this case, trust was built on the work because I was there on the ground together with the community in the streets, organizing, strategizing, winning, and sometimes losing campaigns. But trust was also strengthened because I came from communities that look like South LA. And so my empathy and my understanding of the conditions and the lived experience was clear, it was real, and it was felt. And because of this, like, trust really was mutual and evident. And so at the Solutions Project, and it seems like in this space as well, we know that it's imperative to trust communities on the front lines. And that's because they are the ones most impacted by the compounding effects of the climate crisis, which is the issue that we work on. And that's like thinking about an overlay of racism, poverty, and pollution. And these are the very same communities that are already acting boldly and responding to the most intersectional issue of our time, and creating climate solutions that lift everyone up. And one thing that I want to talk about at the Solutions Project, and we're not the only ones kind of innovating this ideology and this practice, but solidarity philanthropy is what we are in a practice with. And for us, it's about reaching for the highest impact and integrity in grant making. It's rooting in and building off of the standards set by trust-based philanthropy. And we think that in order to effectively address power, which is often unequal, and build equity in the philanthropic sector, philanthropy needs to do more. Yeah. And our commitment to solidarity means building and fostering meaningful relationships with our grantee partners and being accountable to the movements that we support. And trust-based philanthropy is great. I think it's a baseline standard that we definitely have to build off of. But some of the limitations of trust-based is that it says you can trust communities, even though sometimes the trust proclaimed may not translate to the giving. And while it's great for philanthropy to say that we trust you, it's just not enough. And to build authentic relationship, it's important to be accountable and demonstrate that we in philanthropy can be trusted too. And in any relationship, being accountable is hard, right? Like it's a little bit uncomfortable. But I think when you're really trying to build trust and build an authentic, sincere relationship, it requires being a little bit uncomfortable. And so solidarity philanthropy builds on the trust-based practice because it's rooted in an intrinsic kind of mutuality. And it's recognizing that relationships are dynamic, they're alive, they're not static and one directional. And at the Solutions Project, when I think about what that looks like, it's us listening deeply, it's sharing our learnings with the field, it's being transparent, it's being accountable, as I keep saying, it's seeking and being open to feedback, even getting feedback about our funding strategy, and getting recommendations from our base. It's being in regular communication, it's being collaborative, and it's being vulnerable. Another place that's a little bit uncomfortable for any of us. And vulnerability allows space for our partners to be vulnerable too. And it shows that we understand what it takes to create change and transformation, especially when you're doing so much with so little. And that so little part is important. Last week, I was just talking about how there's a couple studies that have come out where they say that less than 2% of philanthropic dollars goes to the environment. And a fraction of that, okay, because that's less than 2% going to the environment. And then a fraction of that goes to climate justice organizations. And what that means is that a fraction goes to people of color and women of color. And then there was a separate study that talked about, like, of the $70 billion that goes into the philanthropic ethos of giving, just 0.5%, not even 1%, goes to Black women-led and centered work. And so the other side of that coin is that the majority of our resources are actually going to white-led, well-resourced institutions. And to me, if the flow of philanthropic capital is looking racist, let's talk about that. Let's be accountable to that. Let's change that story. And so the practice of solidarity philanthropy is bold because it requires courage and disrupting the status quo.
Love it, Gloria. And actually, you know, we're singing the same song because basically, you know, why the center of many collective giving groups and giving circles is how we move into action because we are fed up with the inequities that are in giving and in philanthropy, right?
Yes.
Those numbers, those statistics that you shared are shocking and infuriating, and we need to do something about it, right? The fact that, you know, also less than 2% of philanthropic funding goes to women and girls issues. And if we're talking about women and girls of color, as you mentioned, is less than 1%.
Yes.
One third of 1% goes to the LGBTQ community. It is unacceptable. So that is why, you know, our movement is what it is, right? We get together, we get into action. And something that you mentioned, right? The importance of having these authentic relationships, of looking at people in the eyes. It's not rocket science. It's just look at, right? It's just like, look at the other person in the eyes as part of your family, of your inner circle. Stop, you know, othering people. Stop, you know, making everything about our differences instead of what is uniting us, right? In my work with giving circles, many times when after, you know, a giving circle will give a gift or a grant to a small grassroots nonprofit, the director of that nonprofit will call the day after and said, I want to be part of that giving circle, right? So you come full circle to really have the voices of the community, you know, informing the work of the circle. So definitely, you know, a grassroots movement that needs that trust. And as you said, I love what you said, trust-based philanthropy, it is great, but it should be our baseline. not the ceiling. We should just start there and then build and build. And I love what you said, that trust is a two-way street, right?
Two-way.
Two-way street. We, I think all of us are at some point in our lives as the funder, right? Or the giver. We need to be accountable to community. We need to be open to feedback. And as you said, to uncomfortable conversations and being vulnerable. And I totally agree with you, when you open yourself as being vulnerable, magic happens, because you build trust at that moment. Okay, let's move along because we have so many questions and time is flying. Wow, I like this one. I know you talked about, how Solutions Project practices philanthropy, right? How are you all building connections with grassroots frontline communities and organizations? You mentioned a little bit about that. But how might collective giving groups, giving circles, regardless of the donation size, can learn and apply those lessons? And sometimes, bold change requires disruption. So how have you been disrupted throughout your career? And what advice do you have for our community looking to disrupt?
Oh, so this is a loaded one. I'm someone who definitely believes, to answer that first part of the question about what people can do, the tone that the representation, whoever's representative of this space, like all those leaders from around the world that you had speaking, proclaiming all the values that your work and your giving is anchored in. To me, that is everything. I'm a values forward kind of person. And I feel like if your values are driving you, that's all the energy that you need, right? Because you're going to show up at the right time, in the right place, saying the right thing and doing the right thing. And, I think I mentioned that my path, I had a whole different plan for my life, but being driven by my values kind of got me here. And so I trust that, and I'm continuing to lead in that way. Now, on this notion of being disruptive, I honestly think I kind of came into the space being disruptive, right? Disrupting forward, as I call it, because sometimes being disruptive has a negative connotation. And when it's rooted in love, when it's rooted in care, when it's rooted in lifting everyone up, that's when you're disrupting forward. And that's that good disruption. That's that sweet disruption.
I am going to adopt that, disrupting forward. I love it.
Yes. And, one of the things that was really important to me, like I give everything, all credit goes to the movement that I come from. I first started in this work doing economic justice work. And I started at an organization called Scope in South LA under the leadership of Anthony Thigpen. He taught me everything that I know, and the leaders in South Central LA did as well, and my family, as I said earlier. But those values, the vision, showing me how you demonstrate and exercise power, is what I still hold on to when I'm in philanthropy. I came into the space knowing that I need to lead with movement values. And part of what that means is that while I wanted to come into this space and really challenge philanthropic giving, which is under-resourcing people and communities that look like me, communities that have been historically disinvested, the communities from yesterday that were redlined are the same environmental justice communities of today. And so for me, it was important to make sure that's exactly who we are centering. Because if a fraction of the dollars are moving to those places, spaces, and leaders and those communities, then I need to come in saying that's exactly where we want to resource. That's who we want to resource. That's the gap and niche we need to fill, because unfortunately, and you talked about philanthropy being about the love of humanity, we're not living up to the love of humanity. And so let us show how it's done. And what that meant is figuring out new strategies, because I came in fundraising from institutional philanthropy, hoping that they would believe in this vision about, everything that I shared about who's under-resourced, where dollars are not flowing, what it means to be a movement accountable intermediary that is in deep relationship with our partners and wanting to resource exactly where the gaps are. And unfortunately, the response was like, oh, well, your previous year's budget was this. And so I think we kind of want to keep you there. We hear your vision, it's cute, but like, this is where you were at before, even though I wasn't the leader of the organization then. So it was clear to me that I needed to be creative and talk to everyone to get the resources I needed to achieve this vision. And, we're on our way. We did some tough work talking to high net worth individuals who were also rooted in a status quo way, who had status quo people in their ear giving direction about how they should resource. And I talk about faith, I talk about synchronicity, I talk about my ancestors, I talk about God, the universe. I believe in so much abundant energy. And that synchronicity aligned me with the right person at the right time and the right moment, who was actually willing to listen and who took a chance. And what was important to me when I talk about movement values is, while I had an opportunity to be in front of someone who had status quo people in their ear, and they were listening to someone who was disrupting the status quo, I looked out for the Solutions Project, but I also looked out for other organizations that were similar to us. I also looked out for our grantee partners. I also allied with others who in this conversation to make sure that we had some alignment, because that's what organizing is about, is knowing that you can't do this work alone. Yeah. And that while you want to resource your people, resource everybody if you can. If you are in the room and your folks aren't, represent, stand in your values, be courageous, speak truth to power. And do not compromise, right? Do not leave a space where your tummy is feeling like, ooh, I did something wrong. Leave with your dignity and in integrity. And long story short, I was able to move that conversation to resourcing our organization and a plethora of other groups and some of our frontline partners. And what was important about that, I mentioned that I came from an economic justice organization originally, and it was actually under my leadership at Scope that we ended up moving into being a climate justice organization, as we're known for now. But what was important to me is that I had a bunch of relationships with folks from the economic justice movement and labor leaders. And this particular funder, amassed their wealth from workers. And so what was important to me before I accepted those dollars, even though it was an abundance of dollars, it achieved my goal and then some, the milestone, let me be clear, because that's not the goal. It achieved my first milestone and then some. I went and talked to personally 30 labor leaders from across the country, including someone who was organizing Amazon workers, because, my particular donor amassed wealth from Amazon workers. And hands down, what every single one of those people said, and we all have critiques of money and where it comes from. And they said, Gloria, people would have taken $200,000 and not even had this conversation. And so the fact that you are coming to us and telling us this story, because to me, that's what accountability is about. Before you even accept the dollars, lets us know that you are being true to your values. We trust you because you are demonstrating your values, and please go take that money before anything changes, right? And so once I had the blessing of all of those leaders, all of them, that's when it was clear to me, these resources are ours. And not only did we look out for the Solutions Project, but we looked out for our movement, and we did it in a way that was accountable.
I love it, because you're being accountable, you are leading with integrity, right? You mentioned integrity at the top of the hour, and it's being transparent to your partners, to your community, before taking the money. I love it. Thank you so much for this. And I'm going to there is a really good question in the Q&A that I want to. I think you have mentioned some of this in your previous answer, but I'm going to read it here. So, most good movements are volunteer-led and supported. In the world we live in, with so much inequality, people are resource constrained. What is our responsibility that we have to not perpetuate inequality with a movement model that is not resourced well? I worked for a movement led by an ally, and the labor of that movement was entirely women's labor who were burning out a lot. Please respond to this, as funders are now just beginning to give unrestricted funds. Ooh, the word of the unrestricted funds.
Yeah, so all of that is new, right? This unrestricted giving, and it's not new because funders finally figured out that they should give unrestricted, but it's actually, you know, when I started as an intern at Scope in South LA while I was still in college, like nearly 19 years ago now, back then, our organizers were telling funders that they need to give unrestricted general operating, which we call self-determination grants, again, leading with the value, because when you give general operating, it's all about communities being able to self-determine how to expend those resources. So we were talking about unrestricted general operating, multi-year support. And fast forward to today, foundations and philanthropy is just now catching up to that. So that's sometimes how slow change can take. But to this question of just like, you know, there was a lot that was said there. One, I want to speak to just the exhaustion that so many are feeling, and acknowledging that. And that's part of that vulnerability. You know, people only share that when they feel safe to do so, because all too often, you know, we're hustling and on the grind for the dollars. And one of the things that we can be doing better in philanthropy is, you know, when we talk about the value, and for example, knowing that people are tired, sometimes, you know, if you have 100 grand to give, you have 50,000 to give, of course, you want it to be unrestricted in general operating, and you want to be like, and we understand that people are tired. And so unrestricted to us is whatever you need it to be, even if it's saying you need to have a retreat for you and your staff. Even if it's saying you need a wellness day for you and your staff, just kind of giving some granularity to making sure that people can feel what unrestricted means. Because all too often we sacrifice ourselves first for the work, but we need our people here to do the work. And what people often don't hear from funders is that we care about you, we care about your health, we care about your well-being, we care about your mental health, we care about your physical health, we care about your spiritual health. And so all of that is unusual. You know, it's being rooted in our humanity. And this space, like, again, I feel so safe to even share all of this because it seems like this is a community that is already aligned and understands that. And all I'm sharing is to say it out loud to people, so for people to really feel that you're supporting in that type of way, because that's when $5,000 can go a long way if it's helping to resource someone having some time off.
Totally. Love it, Gloria. You know, one time I got a proposal from a funder that the question was like, how do you take care of your mental health and that of your team? And I loved it. I'm like, my God, this is refreshing. I know we are running out of time.
It went fast.
Yes, it went really fast. Thank you so much. So as we close our session today, can you leave us with ways we can all take action? You know, you said, yes, follow with our values need to guide our work. But how can we just, you know, apply these intentions for a bold future and all our work doing collective giving?
Great question. And I think right now there's so many forces trying to keep communities divided, domestically and globally. And on top of everything, over the past few years, corporations industry leaders, elected officials, and some segments of philanthropy made a lot of promises and didn't follow through.
Yeah.
And so after decades of building power and influencing public discourse and shaping public policy, frontline communities helped win policies like the Inflation Reduction Act, the Infrastructure and Jobs Bill, and this initiative, this federal initiative called Justice 40. And all of that has put an abundance of federal dollars on the map. So this moment is ripe and ready for communities and ready for philanthropists to rise to the occasion and show how it's done, show how change happens, show what relationship building looks like, demonstrate what solidarity looks like. And it's about being bold. It's about joining forces and creating a more equitable and sustainable future. And, you know, someone who opened us, like one of those speakers said, that you don't have to be a millionaire or wealthy to show up and support what you care about. And that's something that we talked about recently at the Solutions Project during Black Climate Week, where we honored Black abolitionists like Madam C.J. Walker, Harriet Tubman, Mary Ellen Pleasant, Biddy Mason from LA, because all of them gave what they were able to give to their community before they even attained wealth. And they continued to be generous, which was another word someone mentioned earlier, even when they accumulated wealth and assets. And so this moment is requiring us to do what we can to imagine a new way of relating to each other and the myriad of places we call home. I think we are conditioned in a capitalist, colonialist society where values and dominant worldviews are rooted in individualism, competition, commodification of people, which is also unacceptable, mass consumption, hyper extraction, mass production, mass waste are all things that we've kind of accepted in this day. And now we have an opportunity to dream and imagine and catalyze a paradigm shift and create a world that's rooted in a sense of community, like we've been talking about since the onset of this conversation, interdependence, regeneration, care, and love. And a world where the global North is in solidarity with the global South. And it's imperative to believe in ourselves in this kind of moment, believe in our collective values, and most importantly, in our collective power and vision, and trusting that the better tomorrow that we imagine is shared with communities in our neighborhood, across the country, and around the world. And we got to get active with our local community organizations. And if you need help finding one, you can call us at the Solutions Project, because we're connected to a network of hundreds of climate justice organizations across the country. I think you can learn about community-led climate solutions, get to know your neighbors, vote, hold our elected officials accountable, be kind, be just, be courageous, and speak up and speak out about what you believe in and what's important to you. And like my family taught me, we are not alone. And together, as y'all have said in this beautiful theme, we are bold and we can truly do anything. And so let's create the future we want.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Gloria, for this inspiration, this power. I think, you know, it's the best way that we can kick off the We Give Summit this year. Thank you so much for joining us. Like, I am so inspired heading into We Give Summit this week, and we're just getting started. So I hope you can join us for more sessions. And, you know, everybody in the audience, join us for more sessions, engage with our community on Huba, share on social to let everybody know that you are at We Give Summit, and invite your friends to register. Thank you so much, Gloria.
Thank you so much. And just appreciating everyone that's here and all the people who are in the chat. Just deep love to everyone, and keep doing what we're doing, and just know that we're doing it together.
Thank you, Gloria. So I'm going to give thank you to our sponsors real quickly. Throughout this summit, we want to hear from all of you. Share about your experience on social media using the hashtag WeGiveSummit. Share pictures with your swag. Tell others what you're learning throughout the sessions. And also, please share your feedback Following the sessions, there is a 2-question poll that will pop up at the end of each session. Remember that we're raffling books every single session that you attend. And before we head in our next session, I'd like to give big thanks to the We Give Summit Steering Committee for all of their work planning and organizing this year's event. Our committee helped craft this year's agenda, helped gather us for all these 3 days. So thank you so much. And a big thank you to our We Give Summit sponsors, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, Fidelity Charitable, Schwab Charitable, the Margaret Casey Foundation, Kim Badwin Foundation of the US, Battery Power, Lodestar Foundation, Comcast NBC Universal, Hispanics in Philanthropy, Giving Compass, Global Impact, Colmena Consulting, Diane Chips Bailey, the O'Brien Family, the League of California Community Foundations, Charity Best, the NUN, the Minneapolis Foundation, the Community Investment Network, Radiant Strategies, Women's Giving Circle of Howard County, and Tootie Scott. Thank you so much. And last but not least, a big thank you to all of our speakers and moderators throughout the summit. This takes a village. So we look forward to hearing bold ideas throughout the week. While we hope to see you at many of the sessions, we understand that we're in a virtual space. So no worries if you're unable to join a session live. Recordings will be available 48 hours after each session, with the exception of our day 2 session with Dr. Ibrahim Kendi and Jacqueline Martinez-Garcel, which only will be available for 1 week, so you don't want to miss it. Okay, let's head to the next session at the top of the hour in 4 minutes. Join us for Hidden Resources, the legacy and importance of BIPOC women in giving. See you there.